Have you noticed there's way less jiu-jitsu and MMA nowadays? And the jiu-jitsu that is used seems more basic and simple than even some of the old school MMA days? Nowadays it seems like striking and wrestling truly are king. So why is that? When we used to see jiu-jitsu fighters with less dominant wrestling be able to overcome powerful wrestlers. Today we'll break down why there is less jiu-jitsu and MMA now more than ever before. Let's throw it back to the explosion of the UFC days, where Chuck Liddell reigned and everything seemed to have its place in MMA. Was jiu-jitsu overly dominant? No, by any means. But there was plenty of times where fighters with less dominant wrestling could overcome wrestling with jiu-jitsu. So why was that? Well, a big reason was we were still in the specialist era, where fighters were overly dominant in one and others. Downs, wrestlers who would lay and pray, and strikers who were totally helpless on the ground.
I want to show them what real fighting's all about.
There was also a much bigger emphasis on winning over entertainment. But the UFC was pretty instrumental in changing that culture by promoting entertaining fighters regardless of win streaks and rankings, and making examples out of fighters of what would happen to you if you were boring. The single biggest difference in the jiu-jitsu today we see is the using and understanding of the guard, which is the single position that separates jiu-jitsu from other grappling arts. Old school fighters would often sweep from guard, submit from guard, and use submission threats to gain top position and dominate from there. Actual jiu-jitsu. Another element that goes into this is the lack of evolution in a lot of jiu-jitsu fighters' takedown games and training style. On a positive note, I think we're seeing a lot of jiu-jitsu fighters elect to try to make a career out of strictly jiu-jitsu competitions due to its rising popularity and more lucrative payouts compared to the years we've seen past. This is keeping many of the best jiu-jitsu athletes in jiu-jitsu, similar to how many of the best boxers stay in the sport of boxing. Creativity to get the fight to the ground has also halted. Take this old clip of Damian Maia, for instance, one of my jiu-jitsu heroes. He struggles to take down a more dominant wrestler in Usman, so he pulls half guard so he can re-wrestle up. Absolutely beautiful. I had many students of mine study Damian for years as he truly innovated jiu-jitsu and MMA. Nowadays, you'll have long-term success in MMA. Which leads us to where we are today, the anti-jiu-jitsu era. I think you would be shocked to find out how many fighters can make it to even the mid-level of the UFC with little to zero grappling. Nowadays, fighters understood the assignment that the UFC wants from them. Fighters are electing to focus on elevating their striking skills and simply focus on avoiding grappling rather than using grappling. You see, striking is a very repetitious art, and even with just focusing in a couple hours on takedown sprawls, basic cage wrestling and pummeling, and three-point get-ups, well, that seems to be the go-to for a lot of athletes to at least get through the low-level UFC competition, as long as they hammer those basic ideas into repetitive training. I truly couldn't tell you the last time I saw a beautiful sweep in the UFC, and there are very few fighters nowadays who seem to have an actual understanding on how to effectively use the guard. Shout out to Diego Lopez, who actually knows how to use the guard. Even offensively, very few fighters truly have an understanding, and we see a lot of backpacking and stalling. Truly, the best grappling offense we see today comes from the Dagestanis and those who have employed a similar system. But that's because their lifelong martial arts, Sambo, combines basic striking, dominant wrestling and judo, and not only submissions, but continuous chain wrestling, which leads to more offense. And that's why fighters like that truly deserve all the recognition in the world, because they saw where jiu-jitsu was lacking and they decided to progress it forward and make it more dominant in an MMA setting. And fighters who have only learned anti-jiu-jitsu face these types of top chain dominant grapplers with strong wrestling and fence wrestling. They often find themselves completely overwhelmed, and at the very most are only able to focus all of their resources on defense and simply not getting finished. The fighters who have truly progressed the level of grappling like Islam truly deserve so much appreciation and support. And until other fighters take a page out of their book and level up with them, we should expect these fighters to stay on top. Did you enjoy this breakdown? If so, be sure to drop a comment down below and please subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'd love to hear from you and what you want to see next. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to check out some of my other videos in my library. Thanks and have a great day.